What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in this video, we are going to be discussing the brand new treasure map batch that's going to be arriving here on One Piece Treasure Cruise. And there's going to be another legend, which is, I guess, a little surprising in my honest opinion, because we are just coming off of the worldwide anniversary, and I wasn't really expecting them to drop another treasure map legend. And I guess you could look forward right into May, which is going to be the anniversary. And typically, like, when you get to think about it, that the anniversary Sugofest is essentially the treasure map Sugofest of that month, because it falls in line with the dates of normal treasure map. So I guess because there is no technical, like, there's gonna not be a treasure map Sugo next month, they kind of want to offset it by making this kind of a little bit more premium with a legend. Either way, a new version of Jewelry Bonney, so they're really hammering home this crazy amount of worst generation characters in this month, right before the anniversary. So let's just briefly go over it. So the Sugofest is going to debut on April 7th for part 1. You've got April 8th for part 2, and surprise, surprise, April 9th for part 3. The boosted list in terms of the characters, you got Bonney as the legend, and you got 2 new rare recruits in Urouge and Blackbeard. But then you've got, different boosted TM legends on each of the parts here. You got Bon Clay, which is still really good in my opinion if you haven't got him here. But of course, a lot of people are opting to conserve their rainbow gems for the anniversary, which is definitely the way to go. Let's just briefly break down what this Sugofest is all about. You've got the discount here at 30 gems. You've got a pretty trash step number 2. Recommended character on the 3rd, which means that if you get a gold, it's guaranteed to be one of the 2 new rare recruits. If you get a red, it can be any one of the TM legends that you see here, including Bonney, of course. But then you got a guaranteed legend on the 5th, and then you don't get one of the new characters guaranteed until the 7th, but it does mean if you get a red poster on step 7 that you do get Bonney, so that's kind of cool, I guess. But TM Sugos are typically 5% chance rate to get a red, which means that it's a 5% chance to get Bonney on the 7th step, so it's not that great when you really think about it. And of course, if you go all the way to the 25th multi, you get her guaranteed, but being so close to the anniversary, this is not the wise decision. Do not do that. It is a terrible idea to do it. But I guess a lot of people are going to ask about what these characters actually do. So let's just jump into it, because these characters are kind of interesting. So we've got Urouge here. Now, the theme of this batch, in terms of the Treasure Cruise mechanics, is that they're all fighter characters. So this is kind of like a pseudo buff for fighters. So the captain ability of Urouge, it's not that important, of course. You can use it as a captain if you want in the treasure map, but it's not amazing. The special being multi-stage. So stage 1, 8-turn cooldown, reduces special bind and attack down by 3, boosts Psi orbs by 1.75, and if you have 4 or more Psi characters, you get a 500 base attack boost for 1 turn. But then stage 2, you get -1 cooldown, 5-turn removal of attack down and special bind, and then a 2 times orb boost to Psi characters, and if you've got 4 or more Psi characters, you get the 1000 base attack boost. Not a bad special, honestly, when you pair it with the fact that he has the crewmate ability, the double entendre, where he has the ability to remove special bind and special reverse by 5 turns with 1 crewmate ability. They typically reserve these type of crewmate abilities for legends, so the fact that this treasure map rare recruit Urouge randomly has this is bizarre. The other one is that he sets all slots to recovery at the start of the quest. It's actually a very, very good effect, and I did talk about it in my video that I uploaded today, actually, where it was a showcase of the original Gear 4 Luffy, who loves to get recovery slots to build up his gear gauge, so it's kind of cool that they're bringing that back, so that's nice. You know, full board orb control at the start of the quest is very important, it's very nice. As for his potential abilities, there's nothing really too crazy to talk about. The support effect, though, attaching to all of the supernovas, and it says at the start of battle 3, changes the supported character slot into recovery, and then boosts Psi base attack by 500 for 1 turn. This is really cool. You know, if you're in situations where, like on a Kizuna, for example, this is just another way to get free damage, because, you know, just getting 500 base attack boost for no reason is so good. Plus, like, for example, this actually would have been very good against the Kizuna Clash Super Boss Garp that we had recently, because during that event you weren't allowed to activate a base attack boost, but this, you could actually use it as a support effect and then still use characters like Usopp and Yasop to get a conditional boost out of that. So I think this support, while it doesn't seem that good on paper, I think it actually will see some play. I think it's actually pretty useful. And unfortunately, no Rumble kit. So that's the Urouge. He seems pretty decent. You know, nothing really too amazing, but he's going to be useful for sure. The next one is Blackbeard. Blackbeard is int driven fighter. Captain captain ability, once again, nothing too amazing, but the special changes all slots to int, which is going to be very important when we talk about jewelry Bonney, but changes all slots to int, reduces barriers by 2, so if we see that there, we already know that there's going to be a component in this treasure map that's going to have to do with barriers, so that's going to be very frustrating to deal with. Boosting int, driven, and fighter attack by 2.25, and if you have an attack buff when you launch the special, you get int, driven, fighter, or boost 2 times for 1 turn. Again, like, it's fine, it's nothing too crazy, but in terms of utility, at least it doesn't do that much, right? Full board of int, and then removing barriers by 2, and then it's just a boosting effect. So in terms of gimmicks, there's not a lot going on here between these two TM rare recruits, which I guess is a blessing in disguise when we just look at, potential gimmicks that could occur during the treasure map. As for his crewmate abilities, he gives a stat boost, but then removes blindness by 5 turns, so that could be a mechanic. Potentially, there could be an effect that, like, blinds you and then you have to get around a barrier, but his special already removes it, so I don't know. Removing SFX, it's a nice crewmate ability to have. Potentially, the new Rumble legend, Apu, could be useful as a captain in this quest to remove blindness. I don't know, maybe. Could be an option. He does have barrier penetration, which is good, and he does have a support effect which attaches to all of the Blackbeard pirates, and it says once per quest, if you use a special to boost color affinity, changes the supported character slot into int and reduce barriers by 1. Removing barriers in a support is extremely uncommon, so we have a new Blackbeard that can do that, which is great. Unfortunately, a lot of the Blackbeard pirates don't have good versions of characters that you typically use in teams. There's a very restricted amount of characters that are actually good, and the fact that, one of the things about Blackbeard that's really annoying is they don't have a lot of characters that get representation in treasure cruise, and a lot of the characters that are good are like alternate versions of themselves, and obviously they have a bit of confliction in terms of who supports who, and there can be a little bit of issues with that, but overall it's a good support and we'll probably see play in some fashion. So that is the new Blackbeard. But then we get to Jewelry Bonney, the new treasure map Sugofest exclusive character. Remember, this character will be pullable on other treasure map Sugofest moving forward. But as for what she does, she is a Psi fighter, powerhouse. She's free spirit, and she's a super class fighter character, which is pretty cool. You don't see too many of those come around. Her captain ability, boosting Psi and fighter only, doesn't boost free spirit, which I thought was kind of interesting, but only Psi and fighter by 5 times. 5.4 times if they have a recovery slot, which is a big thing about Bonney, boosting health by 1.2, making recovery matching, and slightly boost the chances of landing on recovery slots. But then the really cool thing is that your crew's int slots are changed into recovery slots. I like that. Not too many characters have that ability, especially even as a innate captain effect. Just automatically changing a slot into another is really good. Like, we've seen it, I guess, with like Kid, for example, which can change tandem into bomb slots and stuff like that. Like Luffy Zoro changing tandem into Wano. Like, we have seen it before, but it's not super common, so I like seeing it again. When this character taps on a character with a recovery slot, further boosts the crew's color affinity by 0.5. So that again is pretty cool. So very focused around recovery. You want to try and get as many recovery slots as possible. Now, do note that it doesn't mention Semler. This is specifically recovery. So if you utilize, Big Mom characters that generate Semler slots for you, like, that actually won't work in this scenario. So you do have to be careful about that. Now, her special ability applies increased damage taken status to the enemies by 1.5 times for 1 turn. It does not go through immunity buffs, but it's still, if they don't have it, being able to inflict 1.5 increased damage is really nice. Boosts color affinity of Sign fighters based on the number of recovery slots that you've used with normal attacks before launching the special. So it's a color affinity that can scale from 2.25 to 2.75, and you actually do have to consume quite a lot to get that. 12 or more recovery slots. It can be difficult. If you do use her as a crewmate, though, which we'll talk about in a moment, it is actually a bit easier to generate that. It also changes the attack multiplier of your recovery slots by 2.25 when you have a matching slot. So instead of recovery slots generating a 2 times boost for your crew, if they're matching, instead it's going to be a 2.25. So it's not as good as a Wano slot, but it is better than a matching slot, because Wano slots are 2.5 times, matching slots are 2 times boosts. So being a 2.25 times boost to recovery is really good. But then, of course, it all ties together with her superclass, requiring one of the supernovas in order to activate it. But the effect changes all slots on the crew to recovery, and it goes through block slots, so that's wicked. And then also, just an added bonus, you get a 2.75 chain boundary for 1 turn as well. Like, that legitimately might be one of the best super class specials that we have ever seen. 2.75 chain boundary is nothing to scoff at. But not only that, but a full board of matching slots as well. And if you partner that with her special, that can not only make those recovery slots that were given to you have a higher magnification, but you also potentially increase damage taken to the opponent, and then you get color affinity as well. So I think this is a really nice buff for fighters, because fighters haven't really received a lot of support. They may have received a couple of like indirect supports over the, past few months or so, but there haven't been too many characters that have released that have been solely focused on boosting fighters in normal content. So this is a good way to do that. Now, as for the rest of her kit, she does make matching beneficial as a crewmate, and you get a full board of recovery at the start of the quest with her crewmate ability. So it makes it a little bit easier to get those higher levels of recovery slots, high levels of color affinity, because you do need to consume quite a lot of recovery to get the higher color affinity, so it does make a lot of sense. And then we have her potential abilities, which is a pinch heal. She does also have hunger removal, which is great, and then also has the recoverable HP amount down effect, which is like really weird because this gimmick is just super uncommon in the first place. So I don't really know why this even exists, because it's just, you don't see it that often anyways. Now, as for the rest, her support effect attaching to any of the supernovas, once per quest, if the supported character uses a special to change slots, makes the crew's recovery slots have matching slot effects for 1 turn, and you get a 2.5 times chain lock for 1 turn. So that's pretty cool. Basically, if you have any orb changing special that is on a supernova, you can just get a free 2.5 chain lock just by having this support on that character. So I like it. It's a usable support. Definitely gonna see play. So far, like, Bonney, she's not like the most broken unit ever, but the things that they've given her, they're just really good things. Like, honestly, this character seems a little bit more appealing to me compared to characters like the Killer and Hawkins that they revealed like a week ago, right? Like, this has a lot going for it, and despite the fact that it only boosts 1 color and 1 class, I like the things that they've given to this character. This character is very, very interesting. Finally, we can talk about her Rumble. So her Rumble, her ability in Rumble, your side teammates get level 6 attack, and then when there is 50 seconds or less remaining, side teammates get level 5 defense, and then driven enemies get attack down level 7. I like it, but the fact that it has to be in the last 50 seconds of the game, that is a bit of a drawback, in all honesty. Like, because the effect is so good, and honestly, side do need a bit of support, because as we saw in Grand Party, and at least with recent buffs that Driven have received, Driven is a very hard matchup for Sai. Even with Wano Law, it can be pretty lopsided due to the bulkiness of Int Driven and the amount of damage that they can send back, because Sai don't actually have a lot of bulk, at least compared to Int Driven, right? So having an effect that could just debuff them, debuff the amount of power that they're outputting, but also give you bulk and attack at the same time would have been amazing. But they do restrict with a little bit of a time gate. Now, the special of Bonney is also very good. 35 CT, a bit on the high end, but the special, you get level 5 defense down to all driven enemies for 25 seconds, and then 3 enemies are targeted for 2.2 times damage, but then when there's 50 seconds or less remaining, then it's a large range 2.3 times damage on top of the additional damage that she already did. So, like, everything looks good here. But the time gate on some of the effects and the fact that the special is 35 CT, it is a bit much. You can still partner this up with Wano Law and generate the CT on this character much faster compared to a lot of other characters. But yeah, it's just a couple of things that I would have liked to see a bit different. 50 seconds is a bit harsh. If it was the first 30 seconds, it probably would be a bit better. But still, 50 seconds is kind of crazy. Completely evading Action Bind, and then also Int damage reduction by 30%. I would have probably preferred Special Bind, because Int Driven have a lot of Special Bind characters compared to Action Bind, so I'm not really the biggest fan of that. I would love to see a character brought into the game that is immune to half stats. That's what we should be seeing, honestly. But Bonney seems pretty good. I actually like a lot of the things that they've done here, so I'm pretty content with what she actually does, but it's nothing game-changing. Like, you don't need to be too stressed about not getting her right now, unless if you're like the biggest Bonney fan out there. Just to give you guys a bit of a heads up, the next treasure map character is confirmed to be Capone, which was a little bit different from what we were thinking, but we don't know what he does right now. We know he's an Int character, likely Int-driven shooter, would be pretty safe to assume. So we'll have to wait and see what he actually does. And finally, before we wrap up the video, we need to have a look at the boosted list. So this is the boosted list of characters for the upcoming treasure map, but interestingly enough, this character is boosted, and this would all but confirm that this is going to be the next Super Evolution character in One Piece Treasure Cruise, being Barto and Cavendish. And this guy with a modernized Super Evolution with level limit break, mind you, this unit could be very, very good. So I am very excited to see what this guy has in store for us with a Super Evolution. But that is going to wrap it up from me. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.